My brother put his kids in a taxi to force me after I refused babysitting. 3 days later, one call exposed neglect, triggered CPS, and destroyed his life. So, my brother tried forcing me to babysit by shipping his kids to my apartment in a taxi after I explicitly said no. The driver delivered them to the wrong address. 3 days later, when Tyler finally checked on them, everything imploded. What followed was the most comprehensive family destruction I've ever witnessed. Strap in! I'm Natalie, 32, female, and I learned something crucial at 32. Some people genuinely believe blood relation equals unlimited access to your time, energy, and sanity. My brother Tyler, 35, male, was the poster child for this delusion. For context, I work as a freelance technical writer specializing in software documentation and user manuals. The pay's solid. I cleared 6 figures last year, and the hours are flexible. I answer to nobody except deadlines and clients who actually respect professional boundaries. I built this career from absolute scratch after 6 years of corporate hell, and I guard my time like it's made of platinum. My typical week involves client meetings, documentation projects, and occasional site visits to understand software before writing about it. It's demanding work that requires focus, concentration, and zero interruptions. You can't write coherent technical documentation while watching toddlers destroy your apartment. Tyler, meanwhile, works as a regional sales manager for some pharmaceutical distribution company, makes decent money, probably $90,000 with bonuses, has 2 kids with his wife Vanessa, and somehow convinced himself that his life challenges automatically become everyone else's emergency, specifically my emergency, always mine, never anyone else's. See, Tyler had this whole worldview where his problems mattered more because he had kids. Single people, especially single women, were just floating through life with infinite free time and zero real responsibilities. In his mind, I sat around eating bonbons between work projects, desperately waiting for opportunities to feel useful by serving his family. The babysitting requests started innocently about 4 years ago, right after Owen was born. Hey Nat, can you watch the kids for a few hours? Vanessa has a postpartum checkup and I've got this critical meeting. Fair enough, I'm the aunt. They're cute kids. A couple of hours won't kill me. Family helps family, right? But requests have this nasty habit of expanding like mold in a damp basement. A few hours became full days became weekends. Weekends became emergencies that mysteriously happened every other week with suspiciously convenient timing. The goalposts moved so gradually I didn't notice until I was basically working a second unpaid job. I started documenting patterns around year 2. Tyler would text, asking for help on Friday afternoons, always after I'd mentioned weekend plans at family dinners. Vanessa would call during my stated work hours asking if I could just swing by to watch the kids during crucial project deadlines. They'd show up unannounced with packed bags and travel cribs, like I'd already agreed to multi-day babysitting duty. The manipulation was sophisticated. They'd frame requests as desperate last-minute needs, but I'd later discover these were planned weeks in advance. Tyler would mention surprise work trips that turned out to be golf weekends with clients. Vanessa's emergency appointments were spa days with friends. Neither bothered lying convincingly because they assumed I wouldn't question family. My friend Jordan, who worked at the same medical complex as Vanessa's supposed appointments, eventually confirmed what I'd suspected. Half those emergency doctor visits were actually booking slots for couples massages and wine tastings. They were using me as free childcare while pretending it was medical necessity. The entitlement reached peak absurdity about 6 months ago. Thanksgiving dinner at our parents' house. Whole family gathered around the table. I mentioned being swamped with a major project for a German automotive client. 6-week deadline. Technical manuals for their new diagnostic software. Huge contract that could lead to more work. Tyler barely looked up from his plate. That's cool. Hey, Vanessa and I were thinking about taking an anniversary cruise in January. 2 weeks in the Caribbean. You could watch Lily and Owen, right? School's in session, so you just need to do drop-offs and pickups. Not asking, announcing like he'd already booked it. No, I said simply. Everyone went quiet. You'd think I'd announced I was joining a cult from their reactions. What do you mean, no? Mom asked, in that particular tone she uses when someone's breaking unwritten family rules. I mean, I'm not available. I'll be finishing that automotive project and starting another contract immediately after. Tyler laughed like I'd told a joke. Come on, Nat. You work from home. You can write and watch kids at the same time. This is what people who've never done focused creative or technical work genuinely believe, that you can simultaneously produce complex documentation requiring research, precision, and concentration while preventing small children from electrical outlets and cleaning up juice spills. No, I can't, I replied, and I'm not available. Vanessa chimed in then, voice sweet with underlying steel. We really need this trip. Marriage counseling suggested we reconnect as a couple. Don't you want us to stay together for the kids? Using their marriage stability as emotional leverage. Bold strategy. You have 2 months to find childcare, I said. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Dinner got awkward after that. Dad tried changing the subject. Mom gave me disappointed looks. Tyler and Vanessa whispered to each other, shooting glances my way. They'd expected easy agreement and were visibly thrown by actual resistance. The guilt campaign started the next day. Text from Mom, your brother really needs this. Can't you be flexible just this once? Text from Dad, family sacrifices for each other. That's what we do. Text from Tyler, seriously, you're going to let my marriage fall apart because you can't take 2 weeks off? I didn't respond to any of them. That's when they ramped up to full manipulation mode. Vanessa called crying about how their relationship was falling apart, how they'd already booked the cruise based on my implied agreement from previous babysitting, how I was being cruel and selfish. Tyler sent long paragraphs about family obligation, about how some people prioritize their loved ones while others care only about money and work. The thing is, I'd heard variations of this script dozens of times. The emotional manipulation playbook was getting worn out. Cry about marriage problems, imply I'm selfish, suggest real family would help make their poor planning into my emergency. Rinse. Repeat. I blocked them both for a week, just to get peace. When I unblocked them, they'd apparently gotten the message. Or so I thought. The texts stopped. The guilt trip ceased. I assumed they'd found alternative childcare or canceled their trip. Should have known better. 3 weeks before my planned vacation, I sent a family group text reminder, just confirming I'm off completely from March 15th to 22nd, finishing projects early and taking my first real break in 18 months. Phone will be on silent except emergencies, looking forward to doing absolutely nothing. Clear communication, explicit boundaries, advance warning, everything you're supposed to do. Tyler responded with a thumbs up emoji. Vanessa sent back, have fun. Mom replied about planning a lunch when I got back. Everything seemed normal and reasonable. The week before my vacation arrived with perfect timing. I wrapped up 2 major projects, invoiced clients, set up autoresponders, cleared my calendar. I had this whole plan to sleep until noon, read books I'd been accumulating for months, cook elaborate meals, basically hibernate like a bear with good Wi-Fi. 3 days before vacation started, the Monday before, Tyler called. I almost didn't answer because I was in the middle of final client reviews, but the timing felt pointed. Hey, he started, way too casual. So Vanessa and I worked things out, decided to take that trip we mentioned. We're thinking of leaving Thursday, getting back the following Sunday. The kids can stay with you, right, since you're free anyway. My brain did this weird pause where I genuinely couldn't process what I'd just heard, like he spoken in another language or said something so absurd my comprehension centers shut down. No, I said when my speech function rebooted. I'm not babysitting. I have plans. Plans? Nat, come on. You literally just told everyone you're staying home doing nothing. It's not like you're going somewhere. This is the thing about people like Tyler. They hear your plans, even explicitly stated plans, and immediately downgrade them to nothing if those plans interfere with their convenience. Staying home for vacation means nothing important is happening. Working from home means you're available anytime. Being single means your time is automatically less valuable than theirs. Doesn't matter what my plans are, I replied, working very hard to keep my voice level. The answer is no. I sent that reminder 3 weeks ago specifically so everyone knew I was unavailable. You're being ridiculous. They're your niece and nephew. Don't you want to spend time with them? Want to and available to are very different things. This is my vacation, my time off, time I'm taking specifically to not be responsible for anyone else. The conversation devolved predictably. I was being selfish. Didn't I care about their marriage? Didn't I want to spend time with my niece and nephew? When would I stop being so self-centered and start acting like family? I let him finish his tantrum, counting to 10 mentally before responding. Tyler, I've babysat for you approximately 60 times in the last 2 years. I've canceled plans, rearranged work, sacrificed weekends. I'm not being selfish. I'm being unavailable. Those are different things. This is different. This is important. My vacation is important to me. It's 1 week, Natalie. 1 week to help your brother save his marriage. Here's the manipulation formula Tyler always used. Make his poor planning into my moral failing, position every request as a crisis only I could solve, frame any refusal as me choosing selfishness over family love. It had worked dozens of times before because I hadn't recognized the pattern. The answer is no, I repeated. Find other childcare. You have 3 days. Fine. Don't help. See if anyone helps you when you need something someday. He hung up. That was Monday. By Tuesday afternoon, the guilt campaign escalated into advanced manipulation territory. Text from Vanessa. I can't believe you'd let our marriage fall apart over 1 week. We've already paid for the cruise. Non-refundable. Tyler told me you'd agreed to help. Text from Mom. Your brother is really hurting right now. Their marriage is in trouble, and they need this time together. Can't you be flexible? Text from Dad. Disappointed in your attitude lately. Family sacrifices for each other. That's what we do. Text from Tyler. Long paragraphs about how he'd always been there for me. Citation needed. About how some people prioritize loved ones while others care only about themselves. About how when he had kids, I'd understand real responsibility. The group chat got ugly. Tyler posted a long message about how marriage takes work, how couples need support from family, how it was sad that some people valued their alone time more than helping relatives in need. Never named me directly, but everyone knew the target. I didn't respond to any of it. Not the texts, not the calls, not the passive-aggressive group chat messages. Engaging would just add fuel. Some people mistake silence for weakness or guilt. They think if they just push hard enough with the right emotional buttons, you'll eventually cave. Tyler was about to learn a very expensive lesson about assumptions. Wednesday passed quietly. Too quietly. The texts stopped. The calls ceased. I figured they'd either found alternative childcare or canceled their trip. Made sense. 3 days wasn't much time to arrange backup plans. Thursday morning, official day 1 of my glorious vacation, I woke up naturally around 9 a.m. No alarm, no immediate obligations, no urgent client emails. I made an elaborate breakfast with actual time to enjoy it, set up my reading corner with a stack of books I'd been collecting, lit candles, put my phone on Do Not Disturb except for my favorites list. This was it. This was the peace I'd been working toward for 18 months straight. 7 days of absolutely nothing productive and zero guilt about it. What I didn't know was that somewhere across the city, that same Thursday morning, Tyler had reached his breaking point with the concept of no. He decided that if I wasn't going to help willingly, he'd just make it happen anyway through force of will and creative problem solving. His plan was simple. In that special way, bad plans always seem simple to their creators. He'd put the kids in a taxi, send them to my address, and by the time they arrived, I'd have to take them. Can't exactly turn away children standing at your door. Mission accomplished. Resistance defeated. Tyler wins again. He called a taxi around 9 a.m. Thursday morning, put Lily, 7, and Owen, 5, in the back seat with a small overnight bag containing minimal clothes, some snacks, and their favorite stuffed animals. He gave the driver my address, or what he thought was my address, and explicit instructions to take them to apartment 3B. He paid the driver extra to ensure the kids got safely to the door. No note, no text, no phone call to me, just shipped them like Amazon packages and assumed they'd arrive, get accepted, and everyone would move on. In Tyler's mind, this was clever problem solving, force the situation, eliminate my choice, assert his need as more important than my boundaries. But here's where Tyler's master plan hit its first catastrophic snag. He mixed up my address. I live at 1847 Maple Street, apartment 3B. He told the driver 1487 Maple Street. Transposed numbers. Completely different street, in a completely different neighborhood about 4 miles away. The taxi driver, either through his own error, Tyler's unclear instructions, or just bad luck, plugged it into his GPS, never questioned it, never called to confirm, never thought to verify that he was dropping young children at the right location. He just followed the GPS to 1487 Maple Street and pulled up to the curb. There was a small house there with a neat yard and a woman outside gardening. The driver assumed this must be the right place. The house matched the neighborhood description Tyler had probably given. He got the kids out, walked them to the sidewalk, made sure they had their bag, then drove away to his next fare. Just left them there on a random sidewalk in front of a stranger's house. The woman gardening was named Helen, a retired school teacher who lived alone in the house she'd owned for 40 years. She looked up from her roses to find 2 small children standing on her curb, looking confused and scared, with a small bag between them. Her first thought was that they were grandchildren of neighbors visiting the wrong house by mistake. Happens sometimes in the subdivision. Kids get addresses mixed up. GPS sends people to similar numbers. She figured their parents or guardians were nearby and would realize the error any minute. But nobody came. Lily and Owen stood there uncertainly. Lily, being 7 and the responsible older sister, kept saying they were supposed to go to Aunt Natalie's house but didn't know the exact address or my last name or phone number. Owen just clutched his stuffed dinosaur and looked ready to cry. Helen did what kind people do when confused children appear. She approached slowly, spoke gently, asked if they were lost. Both kids nodded. She asked if they knew their parents' phone numbers. Lily rattled off a number that turned out to be Tyler's old office line. Disconnected because he changed jobs 6 months ago. Helen brought them inside, gave them juice boxes and cookies, turned on cartoons, and called the number Lily had given, but got the automated disconnect message. She tried searching for Natalie in the local directory, but there were hundreds. The kids couldn't remember my last name, kept just saying Auntie. She figured someone would come looking soon. Parents would realize the kids hadn't arrived, retrace steps, find them, happens all the time with confused deliveries and mixed up addresses. So she waited. Evening came. No parents, no frantic guardians, no police knocking, just 2 increasingly frightened children who didn't understand what was happening. Helen made them dinner, set up her guest room, assured them their family was probably looking and would find them soon. Friday passed the same way. Helen kept expecting someone to show up, call the police, something. She didn't call authorities, herself, because the kids seemed cared for, clean, healthy, not abused, just lost. She kept thinking any minute their family would find them. Saturday came and went. 3 full days, 72 hours of 2 kids sitting in a stranger's house while their father presumably believed they were at my apartment, and I had absolutely no idea in my vacation bubble. Helen was starting to seriously worry by Saturday evening. This wasn't a simple mix-up anymore. Something was genuinely wrong. She was planning to call police first thing Sunday morning if nobody showed up. Meanwhile, back at my apartment, I was living my best life, completely oblivious. Thursday, read 3 books. Friday, cooked elaborate meals and watched movies. Saturday, deep cleaned my apartment just because I finally had time. The phone stayed on silent. Life was peaceful. Everything felt perfect. Tyler and Vanessa were apparently on their couple's trip, presumably enjoying their vacation while believing I was handling their parental responsibilities. The cruise had left Thursday afternoon, the same day he'd shipped the kids via taxi. They were probably toasting their successful manipulation at the ship's bar, convinced everything had worked out despite my initial resistance. Saturday evening, around 7 p.m., my phone rang. Tyler's name. I'd been dodging his calls all week, figuring he'd try one more guilt trip about babysitting. I almost hit decline, but something made me answer. Maybe curiosity about what excuse he'd invented for why the kids never arrived. Maybe just wanting the satisfaction of saying no one final time. "Hey," he said, way too cheerful, that particular tone people use when they're feeling smug. "Just wanted to check in and say thanks for taking the kids after all. Really appreciate you coming through for us despite the disagreement." Every cell in my body went ice cold. The temperature in my apartment dropped about 40 degrees. The floor felt unstable. That sentence didn't make sense in any configuration of reality I inhabited. "What?" was all I could manage. "The kids? You know, Lily and Owen, thanks for not making a huge scene about it. I know we had that argument Monday, but family comes through in the end. Vanessa and I really needed this time." "Tyler?" I said very slowly and carefully, like I was defusing a bomb. "What kids are you talking about?" Silence. Complete dead air on his end, then breathing. Confused breathing, the sound of someone's brain trying to process information that didn't compute. "My kids," he said slowly. "Lily and Owen. The ones I sent to your apartment Thursday morning." The world tilted sideways. "I don't have your kids." More silence. Longer this time. Heavier. "What do you mean you don't have them?" I don't have them. They are not here. They have never been here. I haven't seen them since Thanksgiving." I heard his breathing change. That shift from confusion to rising panic. "That's not funny, Natalie. This isn't a joke." "I'm not joking. I don't have your children. I said no to babysitting. I've been on vacation all week alone. They're not here." The sound he made wasn't quite a scream, but close enough. "I put them in a taxi Thursday morning. I gave the driver your address. They should have been there by 10 a.m. My vision started narrowing, that weird tunnel effect when your body realizes something terrible has happened. "They never arrived." "That's impossible." "I paid the driver. I gave him explicit instructions. He confirmed the address. This can't be happening." "Tyler, listen to me very carefully. I don't have your kids. If you sent them Thursday morning, they've been missing for 3 days. That's when he started actually screaming. Full panic, zero coherence, words tumbling over each other about how this couldn't be happening, how it was my fault for not answering his calls, how I should have been waiting for them. I hung up and immediately started moving. Grabbed my laptop, phone charger, pulled up every contact I'd cultivated over years of freelance work. This wasn't about Tyler anymore. This was about two kids who'd been missing for 72 hours because their father thought shipping children via taxi was acceptable parenting. Started with the obvious. Called 911, reported two missing children, gave their names, ages, last known location, Tyler's house, last known destination, my address, according to him, estimated timeline. The dispatcher took everything down and said they'd send officers to both locations, but I didn't stop there. I pulled up my contacts and started making calls. Old college friend who became a patrol officer. Called him directly. Woman I'd interviewed once for a healthcare article who mentioned her husband worked in dispatch. Called her. Guy from my gym whose brother did search and rescue. Called him too. This is where years of being friendly, professional, and genuinely helpful paid dividends. I wasn't just some random person calling in a missing persons report. I was someone people remembered, someone who'd helped them with projects or articles or connections. They listened when I called. Within an hour, I had 3 officers working the case personally. Within 2 hours, they'd pulled traffic camera footage from Thursday morning, found the taxi that picked up 2 kids from Tyler's address, tracked it through various intersections. The license plate led them to the taxi company. The driver remembered the fare, said he dropped the kids at 1487 Maple Street like he'd been told, except Tyler had given him 1847, one transposed number, completely different neighborhood. By hour 3, police had located the house. Helen answered the door confused, holding Owen on her hip, while Lily watched TV in the background. Officers immediately called me with updates. The kids were fine, scared, confused, but physically fine. Helen had taken good care of them, fed them well, kept them safe. She genuinely thought family would show up. Never occurred to her to call authorities because the kids seemed cared for, just lost. I drove there immediately. Seeing Lily and Owen in that strange house looking small and terrified made something crack inside my chest. They saw me and both started crying, running over, talking over each other about how they'd been lost and scared and didn't know where Aunt Nat was. "I've got you now," I told them. "You're safe. Let's go home." The police wanted statements. Helen was apologetic. She'd meant well, but obviously should have called sooner. I thanked her for keeping them safe. Meant it genuinely. She'd done more than their own father had. Tyler was already at my apartment when I got back with the kids. He'd apparently driven straight there after our call, been pounding on my door for 3 hours. When he saw me pull up with Lily and Owen, his face did this weird thing between relief and rage. "Where were they?" he demanded. Like I was the one who'd screwed up. "Wrong address. Taxi driver dropped them at a stranger's house Thursday morning. They've been there for 3 days. His face went white. "But I gave him your address." "You gave him the wrong address and you never followed up. Never called to confirm they arrived, never checked in with me. Just assumed everything worked out because that's what you wanted to believe." He started making excuses. He'd been busy at work. Vanessa's trip had already been booked. He thought I'd call if there was a problem. Every single one rang hollow because the basic math didn't work in his favor. He'd put his children in a taxi and didn't verify they arrived safely. For 3 days, he assumed everything was fine without any confirmation. That's not parenting. That's hoping really hard that nothing goes wrong. "You need to leave," I told him. "I'm keeping the kids tonight. Tomorrow we're talking to police again, and you're going to explain to child services why you shipped your children, via taxi, to someone who explicitly said no to babysitting." He tried arguing, said I was overreacting, that mistakes happen. I pulled out my phone and showed him the report I'd already filed. 2 children abandoned by parent, negligent supervision, child endangerment. Tyler's face changed then. He realized this wasn't going away with apologies and excuses. This was documented, official, permanent. "You're really going to do this?" he asked. "Ruin my life over a mistake? You're the one who made the mistake. I'm just making sure it's recorded." He left angry, already calling Vanessa to spin whatever story would make him look less catastrophic. I got the kids fed, bathed, settled into my spare room with blankets and pillows. They fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from 3 days of stress. Sitting there watching them sleep, I made a decision. This wasn't ending with a stern talking to and family drama. Tyler had proven he'd rather gamble with his children's safety than accept the word no. That needed consequences. Monday morning, I contacted Child Protective Services directly, gave them the full timeline, the initial refusal, Tyler's response, the taxi incident, the 3 days of no follow-up, provided police report numbers, witness statements from Helen, everything documented. CPS doesn't play around with abandoned children. They opened an investigation immediately. Tyler and Vanessa were interviewed separately. Vanessa's reaction was apparently spectacular because she'd had no idea any of this happened. Turns out Tyler had told her the kids were with his parents for the week, sent her old photos from previous visits, staged the whole thing. When she'd called asking to talk to them, he'd claimed they were asleep or busy. She'd believed him because why wouldn't she? Finding out her children had actually been lost for 3 days while her husband lied about their location, that broke something fundamental. She moved out within a week, filed for separation, started her own custody proceedings. The court case was brutal. Tyler tried painting me as vindictive, claimed I'd orchestrated everything out of spite for being asked to babysit. His lawyer attempted arguing that the taxi mistake was an honest error, and 3 days wasn't that long in the grand scheme. The judge wasn't buying it. 2 children under 8 sent alone in a taxi to an address their father didn't verify with no follow-up for 72 hours. That's not a mistake. That's criminal negligence. Tyler lost custody. Emergency removal pending evaluation. Lily and Owen went to foster care temporarily while courts determined if Vanessa or other relatives were suitable. Tyler got supervised visitation only, contingent on completing parenting classes and psychological evaluation. His reputation imploded faster than I could track. Extended family found out the full story. Not Tyler's version about his mean sister, but the actual documented timeline. His in-laws cut him off completely. Mutual friends distanced themselves. Work started having conversations about his judgment and reliability. Vanessa won full custody after 3 months. Tyler got every other weekend supervised visits, child support obligations, and a criminal record that would follow him forever. He lost his sales job. Pharmaceutical companies don't love employees with child endangerment charges. Couldn't rent decent apartments because background checks kept flagging him. About 6 months after everything imploded, Tyler started calling again. Different numbers, borrowed phones, trying to get through my blocks. Voicemails rambling about how I destroyed his life, how one mistake shouldn't ruin everything, how family should forgive, each message more desperate than the last. He'd lost his marriage, his kids, his job, his reputation. Everything had collapsed in slow motion, and according to him, it was all my fault for overreacting and getting authorities involved. I saved every message, not as leverage, just as evidence in case he tried escalating, but I never responded, never explained, never engaged. Because here's what Tyler never understood: I didn't destroy his life. He destroyed his life the moment he decided his convenience mattered more than his children's safety. The moment he chose to ship them like packages rather than accept a simple no. All I did was make sure the consequences caught up with the actions. That's not revenge. That's just reality being allowed to function properly. The family divided into camps. Some relatives thought I'd gone too far, that family should handle problems privately. Others understood that 2 kids spending 3 days in a stranger's house was beyond private problem territory. My parents tried playing mediator at first, suggesting we all sit down and work things out. I shut that down immediately. There was nothing to work out. Tyler had endangered his children through spectacular incompetence and arrogance. That wasn't a disagreement to compromise on. My aunt took Tyler's side initially, posting vague social media comments about forgiveness and family loyalty. I sent her the police report and CPS documentation. She deleted the posts and never mentioned it again. Through all of this, I maintained contact with Lily and Owen through proper channels, made sure they knew their aunt still loved them, that none of this was their fault. Vanessa was actually appreciative, said I was the only person who'd acted in the kids' best interest throughout the whole disaster. We've stayed friendly. She brings the kids to visit sometimes. They're doing better now, more settled. Lily doesn't flinch when cars pull up anymore. Owen sleeps through the night. Small progress, but it matters. Tyler tried one final manipulation attempt about a year after everything went down. Showed up at my apartment building, couldn't get past security, so he waited in the lobby until I came through. He looked rough, lost weight, clothes hanging loose, dark circles under his eyes, tried the whole reformed act. He'd learned his lesson, gone through counseling, become a better person. Would I please speak to the courts on his behalf? Help him get custody back? No, I said. Same as the first time. Natalie, come on, I've lost everything. Don't you think I've been punished enough? You haven't been punished at all. You've just experienced natural consequences. Those are different things. I'm begging you. I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother when you put your kids in a taxi. rather than respect a boundary. Blood doesn't make family, behavior does. Left him standing there. Security escorted him out when he tried following. He hasn't come back since. The thing about Tyler's story is that he never actually learned the lesson. Even now, years later, he tells anyone who will listen that his vindictive sister destroyed his life over a simple misunderstanding. He's the victim in his version, the misunderstood father who made one tiny mistake. But the timeline doesn't lie. 3 days, 72 hours. That's how long he went without confirming his children were safe. That's not a mistake. That's a choice made over and over again every time he didn't pick up the phone. People ask sometimes if I regret getting authorities involved, if I wish I'd handled it within the family to avoid the fallout. The answer is always the same: absolutely not. Because family isn't about covering up dangerous behavior. Real family protects the vulnerable, holds people accountable, and prioritizes safety over convenience. Tyler wanted me to prioritize his convenience over his children's safety. That's not family, that's enabling. I've built a good life in the years since. Career better than ever. Boundaries solid. Relationships healthier. Lily and Owen are thriving with their mom. Tyler's stuck in a studio apartment working retail and blaming everyone but himself. Some people would call that harsh. I call it appropriate. He gambled with his kids' lives because saying "I'm sorry, I can't watch them" was somehow too difficult for him to process. Those kids spent 3 nights in a stranger's house because their father was too proud and too stubborn to accept a simple no. That's not a mistake you bounce back from. That's not something you smooth over with time and apologies. That's a fundamental failure that reveals who someone really is when they don't get their way. And the most satisfying part? I didn't have to do anything dramatic. Didn't have to plot revenge or sabotage anything, just told the truth, documented everything, and let the system work the way it's supposed to. Tyler destroyed himself. I just refused to help clean up the mess. Last I heard, he's trying to reconnect with Lily and Owen now that they're older. They're not interested. Lily's 14 now, Owen's 12, old enough to understand what their father did, old enough to choose. They chose not to have a relationship with someone who abandoned them in a taxi. Can't say I blame them. Some lessons stick forever. And sometimes the quietest revenge is just letting someone live with the consequences of their own actions while you move on and build something better. The kids are doing great, by the way. Lily wants to be a lawyer. Says she wants to help kids like her. Owen's into computers, building his own systems at 12. They're smart, resilient, and surrounded by people who actually prioritize their safety. Tyler's still making excuses and waiting for everyone to forgive him for something he's never properly apologized for, still believing that if he just finds the right words or waits long enough, everyone will forget what he did. But some things don't fade. Some moments define people permanently. And the moment Tyler chose his vacation over his kids' safety, then doubled down by shipping them via taxi rather than accepting no, that defined him forever. Me? I'm just the aunt who said no and meant it, who loved those kids enough to prioritize their safety over family peace, who refused to pretend criminal negligence was just a misunderstanding. And honestly, I've never slept better.